And now, let's join Maggie Linton on SiriusXM Urban View, Channel 110.
Well, welcome back. We continue our conversation with author and educator Stacey Young. And so Stacey has numerous books. The first one was It's a Crazy World, Learn From It. And we kept writing. Your Above Expectations was pretty much your memoir and the story you were telling as we came here. But there's one book that you got here that is, I'm sure, almost everybody, if you've been in any kind of work environment, has seen it. And Bullies, they're in your office too. Could you be one? And, you know, it's a checklist on what makes a bully and how to stop it. And if you see that behavior in yourself, you need to stop it. And if you see it in others, there are ways of stopping it.
Yeah, it's a topic that's really not addressed enough. We hear a lot of conversations about school bullies, but we don't talk about work bullies. And unfortunately, I've experienced a lot of workplace bullies over the years. And I was actually on a consulting assignment, and there was a very professional analyst that worked there. And we're in this meeting, and one of the sponsors told this woman to shut up and not say another word. And nobody said anything. And I said, how can this be? How can this exist in a work environment? And I said, no, I'm going to take some action here because we can't do it. Yeah. And then I started to think about other instances of bullying that I've experienced because I've managed some really strategic projects in organizations and a lot of Fortune 500 companies.
I was going to say, you have done your Fortune 500 run through,
exactly,
haven't you, over 15 years. Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of things. When you're managing these projects across the organization, there's a lot of folks that have a lot of strong feelings or just
I
territorial.
call it territorial.
Exactly.
Their territorial holds. It's like, oh my God, somebody else is coming in to
Exactly.
tell me what to do. They don't know what I do.
Exactly. Yeah. So what I wanted to do is document all of these things, but take it from a perspective of, one, addressing workplace bullies. What is it? So what is it? Why do bullies bully? One of the most important chapters in the book is about a list of all the different types of bullies that exist in the work environment. And then from there, what I wanted to provide is not necessarily just a dry text of all these different bullying incidents that are based on actual events. You know, all the names were removed to not point anyone out in particular. But what I did was I provided a case study, and they're just little vignettes. It will provide you with a case study, some critical thinking questions, some things to think about, and then lessons learned. And that's the real value of the little chapters, is that I provide you with lessons learned. So if you experience this type of thing in the future, this will provide you with a guide or a roadmap for things that you can do. But on the back end of the book, the other thing that I point out is, how should employers deal with bullies? How should individuals deal with bullies? What's the impact of bullies on the folks in the environment? And a lot of times we don't think about all the impact of the bullies, not only just in the schoolyard, but also in the workplace also. And I think sometimes the impact in the workplace can be a lot greater, because now you have individuals that might be stuck there because they have to take care of a family. So they have to, unfortunately, deal with a lot more abuse than they would otherwise. Because at school, a lot of times you can walk away or change schools, but you can't necessarily walk away from a job. Yeah.
And, once the negative is there, it's so hard sometimes to clear out the environment. That's why I'm such a huge fan of a show called Undercover Boss, because bosses go in and finally get a chance to see their workplace as it is. And over the years, they have found there are some people who need to be retrained, who treat everybody as if they're less than them because they're in charge. And usually it's somebody who's upset about not having gotten a promotion or whatever. And there can be some very negative things that go out.
Yeah, and I really love that show. I like to watch it, and actually encourage my students to watch it as well, because it gives a really good indication of what sometimes folks will do when others aren't looking. And a lot of times bullies will act when there's nobody else around. So when they have that individual, they have them cornered, or they have power over them, whether they're a manager or they're holding a promotion opportunity or whatever the case might be. So when individuals can either individually attack an individual or in a group, folks gang up on folks all the time. But what folks don't realize is there's a lot of different types of bullying. It could be something subtle as, you know what, I think you'd be a great team lead, but just not on our team. Yeah. And, you know, that could be a really subtle form. Or you could have the really aggressive form of bullying where folks are in your face and they're yelling, or you could have something in between. But the one thing I would like to point out real quick is, you know, some folks might read my book and say, you know, well, is this really bullying? So, you know, is this bullying? And my answer to that is, well, it depends.
If it brings you discomfort,
exactly,
then it is.
Exactly. And there really isn't that much of a distinction between being a bully, a bad manager, or someone that just has bad manners. They don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Right. We've got a call from Lily. Go ahead, Lily.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Hi, Maggie?
Yes,
Hi, yes. My name is Lily, and I am really looking at that particular topic as far as workplace bullying. And I just find that, you know, this is something that has been swept under the rug. It is something that is overlooked, and there are a lot of people who are affected by it. And some of the employees, I don't think, knows how to deal with that, because I just find that I see a lot of that going on in the workplace. And I'm one of the older workers, and I'm beginning to see that it's involving, like, the older workers who have that longevity within the workplace. And so, like, you have the opportunity to move, like, from one department to the next. And if you have that longevity, then you're singled out. You're singled out to the point where, oh, now we have someone who's been here 20-plus years. There go our vacation, you know. And I just kind of think that this is an ongoing problem, and it has been around for a long time. And no one is really putting the stickers to it to say, you know, we need to really address this. It's a national issue, not just the local, you know. And so, you know, and that is just something I wanted to put forward there. Okay.
All right. Thank you so much for calling, Lily. If you want to stay, Stacy, I know you and I both are shaking our heads. Yes.
Yeah, and definitely, Lily, this is an issue that is a national problem, and not just nationally. It's happening in offices around the world. The biggest challenge is a lot of times individuals see bullying going on, and they know that it's going on, whether it's happening to them or to someone else, and they sit by and they don't say anything. And that's the biggest issue. I think that's the biggest travesty is when individuals don't speak up and say, this is not acceptable behavior, whether it's happening to you or it's happening to someone else. And sort of like when you see in the schools, you'll hear a lot of messages now that says, see something, say something. The same thing applies to the office as well.
Yeah, and possibly going to like HR, but so often, you know, HR will then hold you as the person, and rather than bringing the person in and talking to them and saying this is the second or third complaint, and you know, it's still better to at least have it on record that you have said something.
Yeah, I think it's great that you document it, because if you don't document it, there isn't a history. So when somebody else comes in later and says, hey, I've been bullied by this person at work, now there's a record of it. So now they can say, oh, well, person A was bullied. Now person B was bullied, and now we have a history and a pattern of behavior. You know, one of the things that I've actually seen in workplaces, unfortunately, is when you have someone who's a really good performer, and they might be really smart, they may be really talented, they might be doing a lot of good for the organization, but that isn't a reason why these individuals should be given a pass. Because I've seen some of the top performers or top leaders in organizations say, I hate to use the expression, but holier than thou, and I'm going to do whatever I want. I can say what I want. I can treat you how I want. And, you know, unfortunately, that's a bad situation.
And nobody's going to do anything to me, but yet they should.
Yeah, exactly. But and the other thing is, I just want to point out, because I think it's important, as a consultant, it can be even worse, because a lot of times as an employee, you're covered by the human resources policy. So there's a step-by-step process that needs to be followed before an individual can be terminated. So with consultants, when you're on these assignments, you have to keep your mouth shut, because as a consultant, they don't have to follow necessarily a long process of, you know, what was the issue? Can we help them resolve the issue? They can say, hey, you're a consultant, you don't fit, goodbye. So a lot of consultants sometimes will keep their mouths closed because they want to protect their jobs.
Right. And that's part of the problem. Once again, we're talking with author and educator Stacey Young. He's got numerous books out, but he also has a lot of activity on your Facebook page, and you tweet. So let's go to the tweet first, and where we can find you there.
Yeah, so you can find me in two ways, actually. Well, let's sort of back up. I think the easiest place to start is my website. Yeah,
yes,
exactly. So I can be reached online at www.slyoung.com. And then on my homepage, it gives you an opportunity to follow me. So you can follow my inspirational quotes on Twitter, which is the handle is a Crazy World 3. But if that's incorrect, you can also connect with me on my homepage. And you can also follow me on Twitter at SLYoungVA. And also, what Maggie was referring to is on my Facebook page, what I do is I go further into my book. So in my books on the It's a Crazy World, Learn From It series, what I do is I have quotes that are in the book, but then I take it a step further, and then occasionally I'll throw in a few more inspirational messages or quotes periodically. So typically what I like to do is to add something new every 10 to 15 days.
Okay. And we'll be reading something from there in just a few minutes. I want to go back to preparation for the workplace too, because that is so important. You won't become a bully if you are secure in who you are going through the door to that job.
Yeah, I think that's where it starts, because individuals that are secure in their selves aren't going to allow others to bully them. But I think sometimes we just sort of get caught in our environments, and we believe that we can't speak up, or if we speak up, there might be some retaliation that happens. And that's where we need to make sure that organizations have strong policies in place that protect individuals that want to say, hey, I'm being treated differently. And a lot of times, organizations will have policies that are related to Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. So if you're part of a protected class, a lot of organizations will have policies that apply directly to that. But there could be other things that folks can bully you over or harass you over. It could be the way that you speak, or just because they don't like the way that you look, if it's not related to a protected class. So organizations need to make sure that they have really solid anti-harassment policies that include the words workplace bullying or workplace harassment, to make sure that individuals don't unnecessarily have to become victims at a place where they're spending a majority of their time. Right.
All right. We have Thomas from Alabama talking about workplace bullying. Go ahead, Thomas.
Yes. I just have a comment. The speaker just mentioned that sometimes those that are overperforming get a pass, but I kind of have an opposite effect, that those that are overperformer or high achievers, they seem to want more out of them and less out of the ones that are less performing, and seem to harass the ones that are overperforming more to do more than the ones that are doing less. And is that like a form of bullying as well? I just would like to comment on that.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily a form of bullying, but what I will tell you is that when folks are overperformers, and if folks can get more out of you, they're going to try to. So a lot of times what will happen is, if they have someone that isn't a great performer and they're just sort of, I'm coming to work and I'm doing my own thing, they'll just say, hey, we'll just give them a pass. I don't want to bother with them because it's a lot more effort. But if I know I've got the stellar employee, and they're doing a lot of work, I'm going to try to get as much out of them because they're a solid resource. But, we've got to make sure that we have that balance, that we're protecting the employees. Just because you have this one great resource, you've got to make sure that they have work-life balance. You got to make sure that you're treating them right. You've got to make sure that they're being fairly compensated for the work. But at the same time, you also have to make sure that everyone is treated equitably. And so if you have an underperformer, you need to make sure that they are either given some coaching to help them improve, or maybe find them another job, or in the worst case, maybe that isn't the right environment for them.
Yeah, very true. All right, we've got a little bit less than 3 minutes. Let's talk about push.
Yeah, so one of my quotes in my book is called push. And originally, when I had this quote, I was just going to use push. But my cousin, Virginia Smith, actually was talking to me. And she's like, you should put a little tagline. And she gave me one. And I said, oh, well, that might be a good tagline. But then she said, oh, she called me like a day or two later. She said, that's what's used by my church. I said, well, I can't use that. I can't put that in my own book. So I'll come up with something else. But because, here's one of those opportunities where an individual has actually said, hey, I like what you have. Here's an idea, like I said earlier with my buddy Ed, which led to something better. So I'll just give you this one quote from my book. So it's called Pursue Unrestricted, Sustained Happiness.
Yeah.
Push yourself to complete a task. Push yourself beyond your past. Push yourself to explore many doors. Push yourself to achieve even more. Push yourself to get a different view. Push yourself to become your best you. And that's in part 4, The Journey Continues of the It's a Crazy World, Learn From It.
Yeah. And just pushing yourself a little bit more, whatever it may be, for your health, for your job, for your family, and you aren't saying just 100% give it all to just that thing,
right?
But give yourself just a little bit more and push it in the right direction, and it'll be so much more positive.
Exactly.
Okay, Stacy, anything else you'd like to tell our listeners out there? Got a little bit less, just about a minute to go.
Yeah, I just hope that everyone will take time, take a look at my website at www.soyoung.com and really look at my Facebook page. So if you want to like it on Facebook, go ahead and do that, because I do every 10 to 15 days have some inspirational posting. And take a look at my books. My books are available on Amazon.
Books are fabulous.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
They're available on Amazon.com, and you can also order them on my website as well.
Yeah. This is a man who chose to make something different out of his life, and that's the most important thing. You decided you wanted to be more, and you are.
Exactly, and you can do it too.
All right. That is Stacy Young. You heard all the different places where he can be reached. We highly recommend that you check him out, and also all of his information will be on my Facebook page, Maggie Linton Show. Good meeting you, Stacy.
Good meeting you
Hope
too.
you come
Thank
back again sometime.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right, stay tuned. More positive talk from a woman who knows all about being positive.